I talked about it a little bit last night on the live stream. I did an impromptu live stream on the Anton Daniels channel. And I went into what was being proposed because somebody had informed me that this was going on. So I came home, and before I started to do anything, I got online, and instead of just making a video, because I had a video that I was supposed to drop yesterday, I was doing a lot of recordings. I did some interviews. I just jumped on a live stream, and I talked about it based off of what I was seeing online from CNN and CNBC and all of the other credible news outlets, Reuters, everything, right? But today, and I told y'all that I wanted to save this for y'all today. Today, I want to actually go over the 35-page document based off of Cassie's accusations and what's been filed in the United States District Court, Southern District of New York, between Cassandra Ventura and Sean Diddy Combs, Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Records, Epic Records, Combs Enterprises, LLC, and Doe Corps, who is listed as a defendant. Let me go ahead and share with you my screen because I want to go ahead and get into this. I want to read the 35-page complaint that she filed, okay? And then I'm going to give you my thoughts. But let's go through it, all right? Page by page. Warning, this document contains highly graphic information of a sexual nature, including sexual assault. So anybody that is uncomfortable with reading through a court document that is released to the public that basically details what she's alleging in this lawsuit, then you are more than welcome to be able to tap out. But let me just again give you a warning. This contains highly graphical information of a sexual nature, including sexual assault. You have 5 minutes, 5 seconds, 5 milliseconds. All right, let's get into it. So this is the actual court document. I want to go through it. It says the plaintiff hereby alleges, and we're not going to go through and read every single line of every 35 pages. We're just going to go through the cliff notes. All right. Plaintiff Cassandra hereby alleges as and for her complaint against defendant Sean Combs, Bad Boy Entertainment, so on and so forth, as follows. The preliminary statement: 1. Diddy is a rapper and a record executive popularly known by his stage names Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, or Diddy. Came to fame in the 1990s. All right, we don't need to know all of that. Received a Lifetime Achievement Award. He named a number of people before adding also Cassie for holding me down in dark times, love. So she's already going back to the fact that when he received the Lifetime Achievement Award in 2002 from BET, that he thanked and said Cassie had been holding him down even during the dark times. And she mentioned this inside of the lawsuit. Went on to say the truth is, however, that Cassie was held down by Mr. Combs and endured over a decade of his violent behavior and disturbed demands. For Miss Ventura, the dark times were those she spent trapped by Mr. Combs in a cycle of abuse, violence, and sex trafficking, among other violent and unlawful acts. So she's basically filing a lawsuit. This is not a criminal complaint. This is a civil complaint. Now, let me also preface this by saying in the live stream yesterday, I mentioned and I showed specifically on different news outlets that Diddy's lawyers was basically saying that she actually wanted an 8-figure payday and was looking for a shakedown. So it sounds like her money is getting a little low. She left Diddy, went and got married, got a new husband, and now all of a sudden she's still in contact with Diddy way after she done got out of the relationship, and she trying to get a bunch of money from him. Doesn't mean that any of this is true or not true, because this is all alleged, but I just want to make sure that I'm adding additional context into this conversation. Let's continue. Goes on to say, she was raped. He raped Miss Ventura, this is what's alleged, in her own home after she tried to leave him. Often punched, beat, kicked, and stomped her, resulting in bruises, burst lips, and black eyes from bleeding. He blew up a man's car after he learned that he was romantically interested in Miss Ventura, which is being said as Kid Cudi. They saying that Diddy blew up Kid Cudi's car. Forced Miss Ventura to engage in sex acts with male. Now, this is the part that's wild. What is up with this demonic culture of y'all wanting to have these crazy, wild sex parties? She said Diddy forced her. We got to make sure that we say the words as it's listed in this document. Forced her to engage in sex acts with male sex workers while masturbating and filming the encounters. Hey, Diddy, I would suggest to you, sir, that if you have any evidence whatsoever of another man putting his Johnson inside of Cassie and then you in the background saying, oh, get rid of it now. Get rid of it yesterday. We don't want the discovery process to reveal you was over there like, ugh. Come on, man. Listen, I know that y'all out here doing some wild things, some strange things for some change. Everybody want a high value man that's a rich man, billionaire, millionaire, and all of this stuff. Yo, you need to get rid of that immediately. Immediately. Let's continue. Said ran out of his apartment with a firearm in pursuit of a rival industry executive who he learned was nearby. Diddy out here gangstering, huh? So Diddy calling men, according to whatever it is that she's alleging in this court document, Diddy is calling men over there to bust down his chicken and he running out with pistols in order to pistol whip people. Okay. Demanded that Miss Ventura carry his firearm in her purse, just to make her uncomfortable and demonstrate how dangerous he is. Or maybe he just wanted to make sure he protected himself. Introduced Miss Ventura to a lifestyle of excessive alcohol and substance abuse and required her to procure illicit prescriptions to satisfy his own addictions. Before we deep dive into this a little bit more, did I not say, have I not been saying that A, you need to stop following these celebrities, especially as far as trying to label them as life goals or using them as examples to illustrate why you can and can't be able to do some of the things that you do. And that B, that the person that you lay next to, even if it's 5 years, 6 years, 10 years after you have a conversation with them or you're in a relationship with them, the person that you lay next to is the most important business decision that you've ever made in your entire life. And so I'm going to be reading that super chat shortly. Let me say it again. The person that you lay next to, even if it's a side chick, even if it's a wife, even if it's a baby mama, even if it's just a mistress, even if you land next to another man, the person that you land next to is the most important business decision that you are ever going to make in your entire life. You need to be a lot more serious than y'all letting this be. You need to have a lot more seriousness in what you're allowing to lay next to you and the people that you're keeping around you. Let's continue. We're going to skim through this real quick. Met Combs in 2005. He was 37. She was 19. Few years. He lured her and he made her sign, or he got her signing into this drug-fueled lifestyle and into a romantic relationship with him. Her boss, one of the most powerful men in the industry, and a vicious, cruel, and controlling man after nearly 2 decades, her senior. So she's 19, he's 37, he signs her to a record deal, and he's saying that he introduced her into a lifestyle with this vicious man. Asserted complete control over her in her personal and professional life, ensuing her inability to escape his hold. He provided unprecedented avenues for success for the aspiring artist, but in return demanded obedience, loyalty, and silence. Prone to uncontrollable rage, frequently beat Miss Ventura savagely. Staff witnessed the beatings but wouldn't say anything. Following the episodes of horrific abuse, he would immediately attempt to hide her and the evidence of his violent rage, often showered her with gifts following incidents of physical violence, a typical pattern of behavior by serial abusers. In addition to the physical assaults, frequently reminded her of his ability to cause serious harm, whether that's reminding her to carry a gun inside of her purse, blowing up the car of a musician that was romantically interested in Miss Ventura, add insult to injury, use illegal substances such as the threat of violence, to force Miss Ventura into repeated unwanted sexual encounters with male sex workers. That shit is wild. Over the years, Mr. Combs abused Miss Ventura physically and sexually. She again and again tried to escape his tight hold over her life, and every time she hid, Mr. Combs' vast network of corporations and affiliated entities found her, and those who worked for Mr. Combs' companies implored her to return to him. Many went as far as to explicitly state that her failure to return to Mr. Combs would hinder her success in the music industry. And how many albums have Cassie dropped after in any capacity? Let's continue. When she believed that she finally separated from her long-term abuser, she joined Mr. Combs for a dinner, which he forced her into her home and raped her while she repeatedly said no and tried to push him away. Now that she has fully escaped, but the harm of the assaults and the sexual abuse has caused her to experience for nearly a decade will forever haunt her. She has required extensive medical and psychological care to recover from the trauma that she's lived through. She can, however, continue to live in silence about what she endured and remains immensely powerful. Diddy does, and immensely dangerous. Therefore, seeks justice for the decades of her life that Mr. Combs took away from her with the threat of violence, excessive use of drugs, and physical and psychological abuse and sexual slavery. This is crazy. Let me scroll down. That's the district, the parties, that's the plaintiff, employer, defendant, Epic Records. So she's suing basically everybody. Factual, she's saying that these are the facts. Club expressed an interest in signing her. Who the fuck signed a 10 album? Okay, let me stop cussing. Who signs a 10 album deal? A 10 album deal? A 10 album deal. Released in August 2006 for number 4 to promote the album, made television appearances, blah, 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 blah. Paternalistic, cute, how regular Mr. Ventura was. Navigate new celebrity status. So basically he used this deal in order to coerce her, according to her, into a sexual and romantic relationship. Within a year of signing the Bad Boys, he became deeply entrenched in her life, exerting possession and control over her. He positioned himself as a father figure and a protector of her by way of example. After returning to New York after a trip to Las Vegas, which she endured a brief hospital stay, and then when she was fully healthy, went out to the club with her friends. He saw her out. He reprimanded her and he told her to go home to take care of herself. And at the time, she thought that her record label was looking out for her well-being and that Mr. Combs had her best interest in mind. So basically, she had went through some kind of episode. And then Diddy came through and said, hey, what you doing out here in these streets trying to party? Go home. And so she thought that Diddy, according to this document, was looking out for her best interests. Invited himself to her 21st birthday party, pulled her into the bathroom, forcibly kissed her. She ran out of the bathroom in the hotel suite and cried. She told her best friend at the time what had happened, was too scared to tell anyone else. Following day, Miss Ventura's boyfriend at the time joined her and Mr. Combs at a club, at the table at the awards ceremony, and Mr. Combs became angry that Miss Ventura invited her boyfriend and it wasn't just her. So basically, he's saying that he was dirty. She telling that he was dirty macking. She continued to spend time. Rejecting his request would have had repercussions for her album or record deal. Picked up Miss Ventura from her apartment in Manhattan in a blue luxury vehicle. Surprised when she got into the car that Diddy was already inebriated. He handed her a pill and told her to take it. And when she asked what the pill was, he dismissed her and told her she would like it. She later learned the pill was ecstasy. Miss Ventura had never before tried it and didn't want to try it. This was the first time Mr. Combs got Miss Ventura high. Mr. Combs then proceeded to drive recklessly at very high speeds down the west side way of Manhattan. She was very scared but did not object, to appear drunk, high, and agitated. Mr. Combs took her to an upscale lounge in downtown Manhattan where he proceeded to get into an altercation with security staff who would not permit Mr. Combs to enter, presumably because he was belligerent. Ms. Ventura decided to go home, but for the remainder of the night, Mr. Combs messaged Ms. Ventura, incessantly complaining that she left him high and alone. His power and influence when he paid a promoter to create a fake flyer for a party hosted by Ms. Ventura. This fake posting allowed Ms. Ventura to have an excuse to go to Miami, Florida, and get her away from her boyfriend by using the guise of a legitimate event she had to attend. Ms. Ventura was stunned at how easily Mr. Combs was able to recruit others to lie for him. She then said she was uncomfortable with the fake flyer, but because the request to go to Miami was made by the owner of a record label, and because she was scared to go against the wishes and face repercussions of him, she agreed to join him in Florida. During the trip to Miami, he provided her with copious amounts of drugs. She became more intoxicated than she ever had before, and her intoxication lasted throughout the weekend trip. As she wanted Mr. Combs to continue to support her career, she felt she could not refuse Mr. Combs urging her to take more drugs. After providing her with drugs, Mr. Combs had sexual intercourse with Ms. Ventura during this Miami trip. So she's over in Miami. Her boyfriend is back in New York. She over there taking drugs and getting buzzed down by the boys. That's basically what she said. He exerted his power, and this dynamic was fueled by the fact that he was basically very powerful. Blind loyalty in his inner circle, paid for things with wads of cash, would repeatedly tell Miss Ventura, don't worry about money, I got money. He expensed lavish vacations for him and Ms. Ventura, purchased a car for her, paid for her apartment, provided her with extensive amounts of designer clothing around 2008, 2009. He began to rent an apartment in Manhattan for her. The apartment was within walking distance of his New York residence. He first showed her an apartment by bringing her there alone with her parents. Her parents were skeptical of the mogul's displays of wealth, but proud of their daughter's newfound success. Okay, so as we go through this, and as we read this document, here's my question. So let's say, for example, you felt some type of way, and I also want to know what you told your boyfriend when you got back to New York after you got done doing whatever it was that you was doing in Miami. I mean, this is so descriptive that it's hard to say what part is embellished and what part is true because it's all told from only one person's perspective. What part is embellished? Because they got surviving Diddy out here in the streets. When I give my final thoughts, it's going to be crazy. But at what point, because you brought your parents there, apparently you out there breaking up with your boyfriend. Boyfriend should have seen it as a red flag. You out there flying to Miami by yourself and you ain't came back in like 3 days. Now you got a new apartment and luxury cars and you ain't even selling no records. Okay. Kristen Nicole says financial abuse is real. Which part of it? Okay, all right. Listen, Christian, I have heard a lot of things. I have never heard of financial abuse as far as you getting things. I've heard of financial abuse as far as somebody gambling away all of the family's resources, or they made a business play and they went broke, or scamming and all of this other type of stuff. I've never in my life heard of financial abuse from somebody getting all of the lavish gifts, free apartments, and a lifestyle, and they're not even selling no records. I've never heard of financial abuse and you getting things. Which part of that is abusive? I don't know. I'm just listening. What part of that is abusive? Let's go on. Let's continue to break it down. Because I have not given my final thoughts yet. But I just want to... That is Molly Mall. That is wild. That's wild. Financial abuse is wild. All right, so let's continue to go down. So, similarly paid for an apartment. I'm going to read the super chat shortly. Don't worry. Financial abuse. All right, well, then I'll just leave you for the streets. Cool. Annie paid for an apartment for her in LA. So she had an apartment in New York and she had an apartment in LA, which was located about 5 minutes away from his residence. And he paid for many of her apartments in California. Also purchased a Jaguar for her around 2013, 2014. Okay, so I guess she's still being abused. Living a life that nobody else can afford, but she abused. All aspect of her life was controlled by Mr. Combs and his management companies. Every event Miss Ventura attended, from the travel to the makeup to clothing, was paid for directly by Mr. Combs and his affiliate companies. Let's continue. Pills, painkillers, ecstasy, pills, Miami doctor in her own name, day-to-day travel, medical care, experiencing memories. Now she's saying she got memory loss. That's because you out here doing what you want to do. Started a whirlwind of celebrity meetings, alcohol, drug-fueled parties. For example, on one occasion when Mr. Combs and Ms. Ventura were using drugs together in his home, one of his security staff barged in and announced that Suge Knight, a longtime rival of Mr. Combs, was spotted at Mel's Drive-In Diner in Los Angeles. Mr. Combs began to get dressed, retrieved multiple guns from the safe, and ran out of his home to where he believed Mr. Knight was dining. She became terrified and began to cry. So Diddy was strapping up to go and deal with Suge Knight. Diddy was they saying that Diddy is a gangster. On at least 2 occasions, he demanded that he hold a gun in her purse, violently beat her, leave bruises, hide the evidence. On one such instance, after a party with Jay-Z, Mr. Combs beat Ms. Ventura repeatedly in an Escalade, including kicking and hitting her, forced her outside of the vehicle on Fifth Avenue, New York City. Eventually, she was able to hail a cab and get to her apartment in Manhattan, where she would cry and couldn't tell anybody. 3 days hiding in her apartment. Learned that she spoke to another music manager at a party in Los Angeles. He became enraged. She had hoped speaking to this manager would allow her to further grow her career, and that he would be happy with her. But he became extremely angry and pulled her out of the club where the party was taking place. He beat her, pushed her into a corner of the vehicle, stomped her face. Security staff Roger Bonds tried to stop the beating, but was unable to de-escalate the situation. He kicked her in the face again. She was bleeding. Ushered her into his home where she began to throw up from the violent assault. When he recognized the damage and physical evidence of abuse, he panicked, forced his staff to bring her to a hotel suite at the London Hotel in Los Angeles, where she was required to stay for a week. So he was Ike Turner, is basically what she's saying. She asked to go home to her parents. He wouldn't let her leave, instructed his assistant to purchase excessive amounts of gifts for her, which were delivered to the hotel room where she remained trapped. She found herself becoming numb to the abuse she was experiencing and blindly following his leadership. By his own admission, his relationship was like Bobby and Whitney, a clear acknowledgement of the unequal power dynamic and excessive domestic violence that permeated throughout their relationship. They was like Ike and Tina. And so now here's the juicy part. So now he forced her into sex trafficking, according to what this is saying. Within a few months of beginning you see how I perked up on this part? Within a few months of beginning a romantic relationship with 40-year-old Mr. Combs, 22-year-old Miss Ventura felt beholden to his whims and demands. Okay, so before we get into this, again, the question then becomes, when you go home or you talk to your parents or whatever, are you not able to leave? Because I'm always confused and I'm always curious as to why women decide to stick around. Is it the gifts? Is it the lifestyle? Is it the fact that you're going to have to live a regular life afterwards? What is it? If this is true, which this is all just being alleged, at what point do you then make the adjustment and get the heck up out of there? All right. He wanted to engage in a fantasy called voyeurism. Mr. Combs said that it would turn him on if he saw her with another. I can't even say it. Let me take a drink. So she basically saying Diddy gay now. She basically saying Diddy gay. Because I don't care what y'all say. I don't know how y'all spin it. If a man want to see another man. The first time Mr. Combs hired a man and brought, oh God, Jesus. Oh. The first time Mr. Combs hired a man and brought the man to his home in Los Angeles, the man, Mr. Combs, and Miss Ventura wore masquerade masks. Like they don't know that is you. So you gonna wear a mask and ingested drugs. Mr. Combs directed Miss Ventura to perform sexual acts with this man while Mr. Combs watched them. He did that, this right here, while he directed her and the man to do specific acts. The encounter lasted multiple days, man. He began to call the arrangement a freak off or FO. He will repeatedly tell Miss Ventura at random moments that he wanted an FO, and Miss Ventura would eventually expect it to facilitate the location and hiring of the workers. At certain points during Miss Ventura and Mr. Combs' relationship, he would insist on an FO weekly, repeatedly telling Miss Ventura that the practice was our thing and our secret. God. FOs would take place in hotel suites, including at the Trump International Hotel in Columbus Circle in Beverly Hills, London Hotel in Los Angeles, Intercontinental Century City, oh gosh, she giving all of it. Yo, this is getting a little bit too descriptive for it to be 100% false. For some reason, I'm starting to believe it a little bit. The one hotel in New York and Miami, Mandarin Oriental Hotel in New York and Miami, Fontainebleau in Miami, Beverly Hills, the Shutters on the beach in Los Angeles. On one occasion in 2013, he had a freak out or FO set up at the Intercontinental. He got it set up, after which he was charged with tens of thousands of dollars in damages by the hotel. What was y'all doing? Mr. Combs' chief of staff, Tony Fletcher, paid the invoice charged by the hotel. He eventually Miss Ventura was eventually instructed to use websites and escort services to find male workers to participate in the freak-offs. And the search was for BBCs on the website. Oh my God. Oh, no. Don't do it. Don't tell her that she told you to search for the BBC. Oh my God. What in the God's name is happening out here in these streets? Sometimes Mr. Combs would pay to fly male workers to the location, including multiple cities in the United States as well as abroad. And he expected her to make the arrangements, setting up the hotel suites with baby oil and Astroglad. Hey, remind me to never shake Diddy's hand if I ever see him in person. Mr. Combs always supplied Miss Ventura and the worker with copious amounts of drugs before, during, and during the freak-offs. She was given ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and alcohol in excessive amounts during the freak-offs, which allowed her to disassociate during these horrific encounters. It became commonplace to get IV fluids in the days after and freak-off to recover from excessive substances pushed upon her. She was required to dress up in lingerie for the freak-offs, and Mr. Combs insisted she wear white nail polish to contrast her nails with the skin of the black man he hired to bust her down. God. Pour excessive amount of oils over herself, instruct her and the workers to speak to each other, then would specifically tell Ms. Ventura where to touch the worker. He would say things like, oh God. Now, let me preface this by saying I have not read this before we had started reading this, all right? He would instruct her to say things like, grab that BBD. Oh, God. What is happening with Diddy out here in these streets? This is official court documents. Oh, God. He should have just paid the ransom. Whatever ransom she wanted from him, he should have just paid the ransom. $100 million, just give it to her, dog. Just give her the whole thing. In addition to directing him, he would be busting himself down. He would use his phone, laptop to film. He treated the forced encounter as a personal art project, adjusting the candles he used for lighting to frame the videos that he took. While Miss Ventura quickly deleted any photographs or videos of the acts if they were taken on her phone, he repeatedly made clear that he retained many of the videos during the freak-offs. Even when she deleted the videos, he would tell her that he was able to recover the deleted videos from her devices. On one encounter, he sat next to her on a flight and made her watch a video she thought she had deleted, reinforcing her inability to escape and the immense power that he had over her. He would pay the workers a few $1,000s in cash for their services, become extremely intoxicated. He hit her in front of one of the male workers. She was repulsed by his demands, but between the physical beating and recognizing his incredible power and incredible temper, became petrified, and so she didn't feel like she could say no. He even would present her with lavish gifts prior to or in the middle of the freak-offs, seemingly acknowledging the ways in which these encounters constituted work for her, and he needed to compensate her for her work. At one point, he had given her so many designer bracelets, and immediately following the beatings, that she felt shackled by... come on, fam. Come on, fam. He gave her so many designer bracelets for the freak-offs immediately following the beatings that she felt she was being shackled by his presence. Come on, fam. Stop. Good God. She would become physically ill, vomiting. Hold on. And eventually forced her to get up and proceed with the encounter. That's wild. She did not want to engage, and she was met with anger and violence. If she would refuse, he would give her ultimatums and said she had a lot to lose. Surprise birthday dinner for her 29th birthday, and he insisted that they leave the party and go to a hotel for a freak-off. So he just said, this is our norm now. When she expressed she didn't want to go, he had her cornered by the security staff in order to force her to leave with him. Went back to the hotel room that she was staying in, where some of her friends were already hanging out. He was severely intoxicated, and at one point in the night picked up one of her friends like a child and dangled the friend over the balcony of the Okay, come on now. Come on, fam. You telling me Diddy? I'm going to read the super chat shortly. Are you telling me that Diddy grabbed one of her friends like it was a baby doll and had their feet over the 17th floor like this? Come on, fam. See, this is what makes me believe that either it's all cap or there's mixed in cap with it, and it's excessive and it's exaggerated in order to illustrate certain things. This is crazy, bro. This is crazy. Stop it, bro. Listen to this. Just listen to it. Mr. Combs was severely intoxicated and at one point during the night picked up one of Mrs. Ventura's friends like a child, a grown person, and dangled the friend over the balcony of the 17th floor of the hotel suite. So he Hulk Hogan now? Come on, man. Stop, bro. Stop. Let me read some of this. Let me get to it. Okay, here we go. Here's a good part. In 2011, during a rough patch in Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura's relationship with Ventura had a brief relationship. Oh, snap. So she cheated. They had a rough patch in their relationship, and she had a brief relationship with musician Kid Cudi. Now, Kid, you know better than this. When Mr. Combs returned from a trip, he demanded another freak off of Miss Ventura, and she acquiesced. So she got in a relationship with Kid Cudi. He said, hey, man, I want to bust you down. She acquiesced. Basically, she agreed. During this freak off, he found her phone and found emails between her and Kid Cudi. Mr. Combs became enraged and placed a manual corkscrew between his fingers and lunged at her. She ran away to stay at Kid Cudi's house to escape Mr. Combs' wrath. Soon thereafter, one of Mr. Combs' staff members told Ms. Ventura that he just needed to talk to Mr. Combs, and even though Diddy was enraged. Feeling like she could not escape his network of enforcers, she returned to him. He hit her several times, then kicked her in the back as she tried to run out the door. She went to her parents' home in Connecticut, where her mother took pictures of the bruises that he had left on her body. During Fashion Week in 2012, Mr. Combs told Ventura that he was going to blow up Kid Cudi's car and that he wanted to ensure that Kid Cudi was home with his friends. When it happened, around that time, Kid Cudi's car exploded in his driveway. She was terrified, began to fully comprehend what Mr. Combs was both willing and able to do if he believed that he had been slighted. This is crazy accusations, man. This is not cool. He gave her 2 black eyes, a bruised lip, welt on her forehead. This is bad. This is not good for him. Later in 2015, while shooting a movie in Cape Town, South Africa, she began a flirtatious relationship with an actor. She spent New Year's Eve with this actor, but Combs found out, and he called the actor and threatened him, and the actor proceeded to call Miss Ventura and tell her, "You really need to call Mr. Combs." In and around March 2016, during a freak-off at the what's up with all of these freak-offs? He became extremely intoxicated, gave her a black eye. Man, this is crazy. Vicious cycle of abuse. When the security footage came out, he paid $50,000 for the hallway security footage. Jesus. Man, this dude is out here running this like a mob boss. Then it goes into how he forcibly did what he wanted to do with her physically, sexual and physical abuse, and her lifelong harm. And then it goes into first cause of action, second cause of action, third cause of action, basically going into who the defendants are, who she's suing, where she's suing them, what happened, where, sixth cause of action, so on and so forth. All right, let me see something. Prayer for relief. Plaintiff prays judgment to be entered in favor against defendants and each of them as follows. So this is what she's requesting. This is the last page. For a money judgment representing compensatory damages, including consequential, don't worry, my C student is coming out, including consequential damages, lost wages, earning, and all other sums of money together, interest on these amounts according to proof. Number 2, for a money judgment for mental pain and anguish over distress and distress according to proof. Number 3, for punitive and exemplary damages according to proof. Number 4, for attorney's fees. 5, for prejudgment and post-judgment interest. And 6, for such other relief such as court may deem proper. And then it's signed according to her lawyer. So 1 through 5 or 1 through 6, she's basically saying that she want money. 1 through 6, she's basically saying that she wants money. So with all of this evidence and all of these things that she's alleging, and she is married now, Van Gogh, according to what was being reported by the news. For all of these things and all of the things that she wants, she basically wants money. She don't want any kind of criminal complaint. She's not alleging that he did anything from a criminal perspective as far as trying to have him prosecuted and sent to jail. She's basically saying for his secrets and for the things that she feels as though she endured in a lifestyle of financial abuse and physical abuse, she wants money.